Reminder, limited 2 minutes each, and please identify yourself and where you are from.
Go. My name is Mitchell Goodman. I've been in touch with Jacqueline previously. I'm a representative of the film and TV industry and wanted to attend this meeting kind of on behalf of the industry and a project that I was working on recently and filming at Pulsa Rosa Ranch. And you know, Jacqueline, you're familiar with the email chain that went back and forth.
It went to the whole town council.
Oh, it did? Okay, so you guys are all familiar.
Just me. It's
okay, well, so that's me. Hi, nice to meet you guys. I really just wanted to come here and, you know, put face with the name and talk about some of the challenges and opportunities that we're going to collectively face with filming in the city and county of Los Angeles. It's an omnipresent entity and an industry that, you know, brings a lot of business to the community, puts a lot of people to work. And you know, this was sort of a surprise to me when I came and filmed out here recently and was sort of met with a lot of restrictions and a lot of very unreachable boundaries from the Department of Regional Planning. And so it's one of the things that I know we talked about, you know, potentially being able to discuss in greater detail as an agendized item.
You're on the agenda.
I am. Okay, great. Well, then I just wanted to say hi and we can talk about it.
But we didn't actually discuss anything, right? I want to make sure that that's, we communicated electronically.
We've never talked on the phone. Yeah, we just kind of emailed back and forth, and you know, we were having some issues, and we ended up resolving those issues temporarily. But I'm really here kind of on behalf of the bigger picture, the next project, and the larger conversation.
Well, I did ask the president if you would put it on the agenda, and he did. I think we're at agenda number 8, item 8.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Matthews. I'm with LAHSA. I wanted to talk to you guys about our homeless programs that we have. We're the lead on the coordinated entry system for SPOUT 1, so that's roughly on A down to Acton, and then the 5 freeway roughly on over to the 15. So that's what we're trying to cover. And so I'm going out to the town councils, kind of my New Year's resolution, if you will. Missed you guys in January, but anyhow, it's still early in the year. So what I wanted to do is come out and talk to the community and talk to the town council about what we have to offer and how we can assist if there is homeless concern out in Acton. I've had a few requests from people to come to Acton to help out, but not a whole lot, so I kind of wanted to get the feel of what the community needed. I also want to put out there that if you do have a need for an outreach team to come out and engage a person, there's LAHSA, LAHSA.org, has a web portal that has LAHSA, and it's homeless outreach portal, and you can simply go on that and say there's a person on Main Street and whatever, and we'll come out as soon as we can, usually within 24 hours roughly, and try to engage that person and get them connected to services. Ultimately, we want to get folks into permanent housing so they can, you know, better themselves and all of that. So that's why I wanted to offer you guys today and just kind of put that out there. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
We have had instances where we've had concerns, and some town council members have become very involved with people who need help.
Okay.
And there are homeless people here in this community, so I was just going to suggest maybe so that we can get the kind of input you are seeking, we can maybe agendize it, put public notices out so that people will come. And if they come, that's great. If they don't, it's the best we can do.
And the LA Hub, honestly, is really nice because it's more eyes and ears looking for us. Because, you know, we're a team of 2. There's 8 different outreach teams in this spot with Mental Health America, DMH, us, and LA Family Housing. So there's 8 different teams that kind of canvass the area, but we can spend an hour looking in a desert and find nothing, but we might have just missed the next hill. Yeah. You know, so, you know, having more eyes and ears is very helpful.
Yeah, do you have our email address? ATC@actontowncouncil.org?
I don't know if I do, but
okay.
I'll write it down.
Yeah,
ATC at Acton?
ActonTownCouncil.org.
Okay.
So if you send us an email there with your contact info, we'll work out and move each on the
Super,
agenda.
I appreciate it.
Our meeting's pretty full on for March, I mean.
Yeah. But we'll work with you, we'll figure
Well,
out.
if you can't do it March, you know, I'll be
Maybe
around.
April.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Great.
I'm kind of curious, when you guys, if we report something and say, hey, it looks like there's somebody here, so you come out, you speak with them and you try to place them somewhere. How successful is that program? I'm just curious at what percentage of people can actually be placed.
It's, the placement is hard, you know, I'm not gonna lie. With folks that are just receiving welfare assistance, that makes it really hard to find someone to place. Oftentimes, some of the struggles that we have to work with is somebody might want this and they can afford this, and trying to come up with a healthy balance between the two is a challenge at times. What we do is it's a housing first principle, so we'll house a person, but we don't want to put somebody that's making $200 into a $1,900 rent, because we know when our assistance ends, that's not going to work out, right? And we don't want to make their life more difficult or harder, so we work with them, you know, let's do a room for rent or a shared room or something like that, so we can, you know, kind of ease into it and work to getting that $1,900 house. So it's, to give you a number, I can't quantify it, to be honest with you, and some of what we're doing in the field is progressive engagement, so I might meet you, and you might not trust me for a good 6 months to a year before you're willing to even go.
My name is Troy Peetler. I wrote an email out a couple weeks ago, and I think Ms. Ayer responded.
Yeah, it went to the whole town council, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just saw your
worries.
name. I appreciate it. So I was going to say thank you for responding in a timely manner. I wanted to find out about getting on the agenda for another meeting, like I discussed in one of the emails about. There's some properties where they want to build more houses on
Second units, right?
Yes, yes, it's another house, it's a second house is what it's going to be. And my concerns are, because of that, I know that Acton has certain rules and regulations, that was my understanding 20 years ago and since then, because when we try to build something. And I want to see if we can get that on the agenda sometime to talk about that, because if there are anything, you know, that prevents that or what can be done.
And you're right, there, Acton did have regulations addressing second units, or what they call caretaker units, or whatever. But a lot of them got washed away about a year ago when the county developed new, what's called the ADU, accessory dwelling unit regulations, which we had a lot of meetings about and provided some input. We didn't really hear much from the community, so I'm glad you're speaking up now. No, this is good, but I checked with regional planning Tina last week, and she said that if your second unit application is submitted before February 15 of this year, and it's complete, as that the way to use that term, then you're subject to the old rules, which would be the old restrictions. So we're sort of now at a cusp of like the new regulations versus the old regulations. So
the old regulations being
what was
5
before?
years ago, or
Yes,
10
yes,
years ago?
exactly. That's my understanding. But we can, if there's specific questions you have, we can forward them to regional planning, and then Tina or Oscar, whoever else can answer them, or because it's hard for us to. We struggle to understand how the county implements its own ordinances sometimes. So, if that would be helpful, we can relay it to Tina, or we can give you her contact information, because she's the one who told me about this change happening in about 2 weeks. See, the next meeting, we have the dumping and the mulch coming in, and something else, so I can't remember. So maybe we could do that in April?
We should put it on an agenda to address in the CSDs.
Yeah, and well, we need to ask what the
And
community,
I apologize, CSD, would that be the
Community Standards District?
Sorry.
because we need to, we've
Trying
published
to find
our draft
mechanisms.
CSD recommendations. That was not one of them, so we have to give the community, let them know this is what we're talking about, so that they can come in, and because there might be a lot of people in favor of it.
Right.
We don't know, so.
No, I understand that. Might be a majority or a minority. I don't
Right,
know.
right.
People need to know that, oh, wait a minute.
Right, right. So,
Because A year ago, I didn't really care, but now all of a sudden, you know, when, like you were saying, that the state was trying to push it through, and you had talked about the ADU or whatever, here I didn't, that time didn't really matter, I guess.
Well, nobody, we were the only ones who brought it up. Nobody said anything from the whole
Yeah.
community. We never heard a word one back from anybody, so. Or maybe
Well, there were
Lily.
some elements at the ARTC that were pretty opposed to it, I believe. but-
No, but I mean, in this community.
In this community, yeah.
On behalf of Acton, so.
Yeah, nothing.
What, there's some questions about the, we could only have an accessory dwelling unit. I know this was brought up, and I would also, if the septic systems were adequate to deal with a second unit.
All that was in there.
They're gonna have to
There
go
was
through
water
all of
and-
that.
There was water and sewer restrictions, and I think that's, because those restrictions were
So tight,
strong,
yeah.
I think people were sort of
Just moved
saying,
on from the
okay,
idea.
it's not going to be a problem for us.
But they weren't restrictions. What they were is you have to meet
Requirements.
the septic requirements. And you can meet, here, what the county typically does is if you have 5 acres and 1 septic system, you don't have to do a WDR, waste discharge permit from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, all that stuff. But when you're on less than that, then you would have to. But it's not a restriction, it's just another hoop that the ADU has to jump through, which could be a $30,000 hoop,
Yeah,
but it's still a hoop,
very
so.
expensive.
Yeah, what Tina had explained to me when I was there a couple weeks ago was, if you had the, I could be wrong, but the way I understood is if you had the 2 units, they had to share the 1 septic.
We'd never heard that before. That might be true,
Yeah, I
that's
don't-
not,
And again,
when
I
that
might have
question was asked at the
misunderstood it,
ARTC, that's not what was said, but Tina knows better, so
but no, I
I defer to
Maybe we should
her.
pull the ordinance back up and
Yeah.
reread it again.
Well, we'll
and-
post it on our website
Post it
before that
again,
meeting
and
so
we
that
can-
people can read it. How about that?
Yeah, and we can raise questions on it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, we're going to post the new restrictions.
I'm 3 years here in Acton, and I run a place, but I don't know where I go exactly, but I've asked people before. The park, is there any way that we could get the, how far it is to a starting point, 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, 3/4 of a mile, how many times around would equal a mile, where you have markers?
Friends of Acton Park
Yes,
would be probably who you want to,
so I'd have to go to them.
I would think that would be the best place.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah, and because they work with the county and on that and the
Okay.
community, so it would,
Thank you.
and their information's in the Country Journal, I believe.
Well, we can also write an email
Yeah, we can
saying
support or,
that somebody from the community asked for, like,
Mile
distance markers.
Distance markers.
That's good.
I do know that 3 times around is 1.34 miles.
Well, I didn't know that. I came from Michigan and I would do
Yeah,
it would take 3.5 times around was, but they actually had markers, so if you stopped at this point,
Right.
otherwise you have to just know that, well, maybe I went 1/2 or maybe I went 3/4.
Walk away and run from this crime problem, because I like this place, I want to stay here, and I also don't want to see it go downhill. So there has been quite a bit of discussion on social media about what we can do. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow at the community center and discuss it some more. But I believe that if you got rid of the trailer park, much of Acton's crime, not all of it, would disappear.
Are you referring to Thousand Trails
Nope.
or that mountain one up there?
The one in town next to the market, the eyesore of Acton.
Across the park?
Yes. Now, I have discussed this with Deputy Short in the past, and he told me that it's government low-income housing, and they're kind of protected. So I want to know if we can, what the town council can do to lean on and put pressure on the trailer park.
Well, we looked into this about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and according to the county code, I can't remember the term that they used, but the term that they used, under the county ordinance, the land is supposed to be, there's supposed to be the same number of RVs on it as if it were allowed, as if it were actually being developed as a residence. So So for example, Stallion Meadows has got, I don't know how, I'm just gonna say a number, I don't know, has 100 units on it, but it's zoned for 2 acre. So it's over 200 acres. So the average density for that facility, that perfectly complies with the zoning regulations. So the density is just perfect, the number of units. But when we looked into that RV park across from the park, or the facility, I don't think they called it an RV park.
It's a trailer park.
Yeah, and it fell under what I understood to be a mobile home park. So it's supposed to meet the density requirements. We tried very hard to get them to comply, get the county to get them to comply, which would have been, only 1 unit would be allowed on it, because I think it's a 1 unit per acre, I think, and I think it's less than an acre. This is like going back 8 or 9 years. And we couldn't get any traction with regional planning to move in that direction. But that is what we, at the time, we were told that what that use is one which was supposed to comply with the density standards.
Well,
So
it's out of compliance then.
I agree, and none of you guys were on the
No,
council, but
so-
I spent, I can't tell you how many days and days researching this, and the town council wrote letters. Dick Morris was really leading that charge, and Lillian, you might remember it, and we couldn't get any traction. So I would like to know when your meeting is, because maybe.
Tomorrow.
I know, but when? Like tomorrow night?
Yeah,
Daytime?
6:30.
6:30, okay.
Community center.
Because maybe we'll be able to go, and if I can dig up
Who
the
is it that's
information.
meeting? Who is it that's meeting?
I have no
Group
idea.
of citizens that are concerned with crime and are fed up and want to do something about it.
Okay.
So just, we're gonna have torches like in a Frankenstein movie and probably burn the trailer park after the meeting.
Okay, maybe
They'll
we
let
should go.
everybody take
I was
pictures
like,
because they'll get on Facebook
Yeah.
and then-
But I mean, there's many residents that are fed up with this.
Just
And,
kidding.
I'm not worried.
You know, we are getting shortchanged. We pay dearly with our property taxes, and part of that deal, we're supposed to get law enforcement, and law enforcement is scarce. The sheriff department doesn't fill apparently the vacant positions, and at night, I
and
mean-
Deputy Self is pulled in 10 different directions as it is.
Yeah, I know.
He's obviously-
It's folded more than that.
Yeah, so
And,
there's not enough law presence here, and I feel as a taxpayer, I'm getting shortchanged. That I can't park my truck in front of the house without a druggie doing a drive-by, break the window and grab whatever.
Because I think there are 14 units on that small parcel, 10, at least 10, on that, it's less than an acre, so.
Yeah, Now-
We tried, but we didn't have anyone pushing other than just the town council, so if there's,
well, there's gonna be a push now,
okay,
and I'm gonna be a part of it.
okay.
But I wanted to bring something else up. I know that I believe a lot of the residents there are Section 8 housing. And the residents don't pay any rent. The landowner gets it directly from the government. So Section 8 is, you get like 80% from the government, 20% from the tenant itself. I don't think they even bother collecting from the tenants because it's a dead issue. Nobody has any money. So the landowner is just happy with getting the 80% from the government, and everyone else slides. And there's all kinds of transient people moving in and out of there. If you want to know where Acton's criminals are, they're probably there. Or some are sleeping in the wash as well. So they don't pay, and it's basically a free ride. Second, there is no trash service there. So I wonder if we can approach on a sanitary issue. The trash builds up, and they take it over to the post office occasionally and get rid of it. But there's a huge fly problem, and it's unsafe. I mean, it's unhealthy. So there's another item that the trailer park may be not in compliance. And, you know, in general, can we just put pressure and get them to conform and, you know, maybe get rid of some of the riffraff in the process?
Okay.
Town council has got a lot of things going.
Well,
but
I
I'm
mean,
telling you,
I can't sit here and say, we can
Crime,
get riffraff, you know,
crime
it's like-
is what the people are talking about right now. And it's a hot issue, and like I said, that's the rat's nest. That's where they all go back. If you get rid of that, most of Acton's crime would probably go away. Not all of it, but most of it.
Well, we have all
Meetings.
those other meetings
Yes.
that we need to vote on.
Yes.
I had one comment on the one.
You wrote it to me.
Yeah, right.
And it was just, I wrote that one, I wrote
Yeah.
it to
TAP, yeah, that's all I care about.
And
Do we have,
well, we didn't have a quorum the last time we, that
Yeah,
was the issue.
So we didn't vote on
We did say.
December.
We do.
okay.
We had 2 December meetings. We haven't voted on those.
So I move that we accept the minutes or approve the minutes. Well, I think 3 sets of minutes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you get the December.
With the one change that I recommended, I think Ruthie had a change for one in
From one of the others,
November,
yeah,
December.
Okay. Motion.
I'll second.
Anyone else second?
A second.
Who seconded?
Tom? All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Motion's carried. All right, treasurer report, Pam is not here.
Excuse me, can I just ask, is Ruthie Brock officially resigned, or is she
Yes.
effective when?
Can I email you the date? I have to look and see what the date, I don't want to be incorrect.
Yeah.
All right. Sheriff's report.
I think we covered it.
No, there's more.
Yeah, there's a lot. Real quick.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, crime stats for January, 68 incidents. So 1 rape by force, 1 attempted rape, 1 assault with deadly weapon, 1 burglary from a structure, other structure, 2 grand thefts, 1 grand theft motorcycle, 1 grand theft, some other type of vehicle, 1 forgery, 6 fraud, 1 identity theft, 1 sex felony, 2 weapons felony, 1 firearm with narcotics, 1 elder abuse, 3 misdemeanor possessions of a controlled substance, 1 drunk in public. There was 1 vehicle or boating law misdemeanor, 7 vandalism misdemeanors, 3 vandalism felonies, 1 receiving stolen property, 1 theft by embezzlement, 5 thefts from locked vehicles, 2 attempted thefts from locked vehicle, 2 petty thefts from unlocked vehicle, 2 petty thefts from unlocked vehicle where parts or accessories were stolen, 4 other petty thefts, 1 trespassing. There's 4 miscellaneous misdemeanors, 1 non-criminal miscellaneous, 1 non-criminal lost, found, or recovered property, 1 non-criminal possible criminal activity, 2 non-criminal fires, 2 repossessed vehicles, 1 stolen, lost, found, recovered license plate, and 2 vehicles were towed. So, with that being said, kind of like what it was, Mr. Chikato?
Yes.
Okay, so kind of go along with what he said. Here's the pattern that I'm seeing, and if we can not put this in the journal, this would be fantastic. Just this 1 comment.
Hopefully later.
All right, so, library. Some things to talk about first. Right now, we are currently giving out and accepting the applications for the Young Person's Art Show. It's something historically that's been held in conjunction with the Acton Town Arts Commission in June. We've pushed it forward to March this year, kind of try and get kids before they've gone out on summer vacation and never think about it. So if you know anyone, grades kindergarten through 12th grade, want to submit some art, I got the applications here. They're on the Arts Council website.
Can I get an application, because there's the high school PTO meeting, and I can hand it out?
Sure, you just want one or how many you want?
I'll just have 1, and then they can take pictures and send it out to them.
I'll give it to you before I leave.
That'd be great, thanks.
But yeah, so they got through mid-February to get those in, and then art will go up the end of the month. Keeping on trends with the library, speaking of the middle of the month, February 18th, we will be closed for a holiday. I want to apologize apologize to anybody who tried to come back in January, a couple weeks ago, when I was supposed to have this wonderful Cassini talk. Someone from JPL was going to be here. It was going to be great. I had to turn people away. Government shutdown. JPL's part of LAHSA. Connect the dots. They weren't able to come. Literally an hour before this meeting, I rescheduled him for March 12th. You guys are hearing it first here. March 12th, 6 p.m., barring any more issues. That JPL talk will be rescheduled in Delaware. So, on to that. Other upcoming programs, Tuesday, February 12th, we're having a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory event. There's going to be all kinds of games and candy. We're going to get your kids sugared up and send them back home with you.
Sorry, I missed the date. What did you say?
Tuesday, February 12th.
My grandkids are here. They love that movie.
I'll bring them on in.
It's the candy movie. They gotta watch it every time they go.
It's 2:30. I will make sure they get lots of candy for you.
Thank you. Don't mind it, but thank you.
Should be lots of fun. Something else I've got happening for the kids. After school, I've got our Maker Mobile. He's coming Thursday, February 14th. They're going to be making things out of cardboard. When I say making things out of cardboard, they've got these kits that you take a piece of cardboard and you can actually use these little plastic screws and screw the cardboard together and create anything, really. So that should be a lot of fun. I also have on Saturday, February 9th, Gardening for Wildlife. The Pain Foundation. Thank you. Theater Pain Foundation, they're coming out, they're doing what's talking. It's for Gardening for Wildlife that afternoon. And then last thing I'll touch base on is Monday, February 11th, a African drum workshop. There's a guy who comes in, he's been here before, Roselle Woods, if anyone remembers the name. But he comes in, he's got a bunch of these drums, and everyone gets a turn playing them, and really great event.
What time is that?
That will be 6 p.m. on Monday, February 11th. Was that 1 week from tonight? Flying by. Other than that, that's all I got. Questions, comments, concerns? Going once, twice? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Department of Public Health presentation on traffic.
New Traffic Safety Initiative. Hi everyone, my name is Alexa Plant. I'm with the Department of Public Health, and thank you all for letting me speak with you tonight about a new traffic safety initiative the county is working on called Vision Zero. So what is Vision Zero? It's a new traffic safety initiative with the goal of eliminating all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safer. We're losing 80 people in the unincorporated areas to fatal traffic collisions. And so that's 80 families that are mourning a loved one, and we really want to turn that around. The success of this initiative of enhancing traffic safety means more birthdays, more celebrations, more kisses, hugs. So your support on this initiative and the leadership in your community, and I know you all have been working on some safe routes to school things, are what's needed to really help turn the trend on this issue. So why are we working on this? Sort of explain that the reason for it. In 2016, we had a motion by Supervisor Hilda Solis, who's with the 1st District, to analyze traffic collisions and come back to her on the potential for implementing Vision Zero initiative. The board directed us then to, we reported back to them, and the board directed us to sort of lead an initiative to develop a Vision Zero action plan. So outlining all the steps the county is going to take over the next 5 years. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about that. Because we are going to have an action plan out in February. So just a little bit about the collision history. We found in looking at the data for all of the collisions happening, fatal and severe injury collisions happening in the unincorporated areas, about 20% are the result of unsafe speeding. And so this is a real big factor that we're seeing in our fatal and severe injury collisions, along with other things, improper turning, driving under the influence, folks not yielding to other folks.
When you say unsafe speeds, you're saying they're exceeding the posted speed
Correct.
limit?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I think the big thing for us is speeding is something we really feel is important to address, because speeding has such a huge impact on the survival of people, especially people walking and biking. So if someone is walking and you're hit by somebody going 40 miles an hour, you have a 90% chance that you will die in that collision. If you're hit by someone going 20 miles an hour, there's a 10% chance you will die. So 90% chance you're going to live if you get hit by somebody going 20 miles an hour. So we really want to look at how do we redesign our roadways, how do we work with law enforcement to really monitor the speeding issue and get people to drive the speed limit, because that will have a big reduction in fatal and severe injury collisions. So one of the things we've done is try to better understand where fatal and severe injury collisions are happening in the unincorporated areas. So I showed you the big map with all of the dots. We further looked at that to understand where are concentrations of fatal and severe injury collisions. And we found that 50% of all fatal and severe injury collisions in the unincorporated areas of Los Angeles County are happening on just 125 miles of streets. So just 3.7% of all streets in unincorporated roadways in Los Angeles County are where we're having 50% of our fatal and severe injury collisions. So if we can focus our efforts on that 3.7% of streets, we can really make an impact on this issue and really change the tide. This was really eye-opening for us. And so this is just to sort of show you around this area where are there concentrations of fatal and severe injury collisions in the Acton and surrounding areas. So what we've done is we analyzed the roadway segments, and we looked at over a half-mile segment, how many fatal and severe injury collisions are happening. If there's 3 or more, they got highlighted onto the collision concentration corridors.
What constitutes a severe injury? If somebody goes to the hospital?
No, like severe injury, I mean, you could go to the hospital with a minor injury too, but I think it's like if you're not going to be able to work for a while, if it's California Highway Patrol is the one that denotes it, but it's basically like a life-altering injury. Or like a life-altering injury for some period of time.
You're wondering why Crown Valley and Allenwood is out there?
Well, we had a woman here, an accident 6 months earlier. She was still in a walker.
Yeah,
And
that would be a severe
when you
injury.
look at the TIMs, I pulled the Highway Patrol statistics that day. Nobody was injured, according to Highway Patrol statistics. No injuries.
Oh,
It was
wow.
just an accident.
Wow.
TIMS Berkeley, the TIMS database doesn't show any problem there. The day we had our SRTS meeting with county and state people, which was awesome,
Right.
an accident happened at that exact intersection the day of our meeting, still doesn't show up in any database. 2 or 3 weeks later, a son of one of our middle school teachers was severely injured, went to the hospital. It was serious. Didn't he break bones? And I know, Tracy, you would know better. It was, and still doesn't seem to show it. I'm just, it's
If it happened in 2018, it's not in the system yet.
All right.
So it's an antiquated system. So CHP takes the reports, usually by paper format. They've switched to a digital format, but anyways, it takes them, like they're at the state, so it's a little different. But in the city, it's usually a handwritten ticket, and then it's taking like a year. They send it off by paper to the state, and then the state transcribes it and then puts it into a map. So it's like, right now, the best data we have is through 2017, and even that's like, they're still cleaning the data. Because sometimes when fatalities happen, you know, if someone got hit in, let's say, 2017, they maybe didn't die until 2018. So they have to go back to the record. Because maybe they were in a coma for some period of time or things like that. So even the 2017 data is a little provisional just because the California Highway Patrol is working on digitizing everything.
And I apologize, I interrupted yours.
That's okay, yeah, let me just get through it and then I'll open it up for questions. But this is just sort of to show you the areas where the county is where we're planning to focus some efforts over the next 5 years and ongoing. I mean, I should say Vision Zero, our goal is to eliminate traffic fatalities. That will be an ongoing struggle. So this will be an ongoing effort. Our action plan that we're working on is for the next 5 years, but it is just a start to this effort. So really, the 5-year action plan is, as I said, just a start to looking at how we change our processes, our policies, how we change how we work together, How can we better use data to focus enforcement, focus our engineering practices and education programs on issues we're seeing in the data. We are realizing there's a lot more we could be doing around the data. Public health collects data through the hospitals, there's the highway patrol data, there's other data that's collected by the county, so how do we better coordinate that and really understand what's happening. So our action plan is organized under 5 objectives. There's about 60 total actions that we've identified. And nothing necessarily translates into immediate changes on the street. We will be coming back out to work with communities over the coming years on what does this mean in terms of roadway changes. But we will have this action plan available for public comment starting later this month, around February 20th. We're hoping to get it up online, and I will send out the link to you all so you can share it with the community. We really appreciate people's feedback on the action plan to really make sure it's getting at what you think is going to help improve traffic safety and what the county could be doing differently. And we are working with the California Highway Patrol, so the sheriff's is the law enforcement for the law, for like crime, and in the unappropriated areas, it's California Highway Patrol that does all of the traffic enforcement. So sheriffs will still respond to things if they see things or if there's a crash, and they're the ones that can respond quickest. The California Highway Patrol is the ones that are responsible. So they're a state agency, but they are partnering with us on this, and there are actions in the action plan that they are going to be taking a leadership role on around enforcement and education. And a big thing for us, and I know working with the county can be frustrating, but a big part of this is wanting to become more transparent and share the data with the community and really report on how we're doing as a county collectively so we can make changes and make sure we're really tackling this issue. So we will have a website going up later this month, and then over the coming years, we're hoping to really provide a lot of the traffic collision data and stats and things like that through our own website as well. And Public Works is working with California Highway Patrol so that we can get those data reports up quicker than the state. So they're not waiting 2 years to see the crash that happened 6 months ago pop up in the data. So, as I mentioned, we're going to have our action plan coming up at the end of this month, available for public review. It will then go to the Board of Supervisors in the summer of 2019, probably June time period, and then they will direct us to do new work. Hopefully the plan. So that I'll open up to questions, and I saw there was actually somebody who had a hand up over there.
Oh, I just wanted to, something happened the other day when I was at the,
Public review, submit to the board. Is there a funding package attached with this? Is there going to be a bunch of money that you guys are going to get to implement all this, or is this something that's going to be put into the standard operation of all the departments?
It's a little mix of things. So because it's multiple departments and there are things that we do as a matter of course of business, some of the work is stuff we are able to do within the existing capacity that we have. And so some of the work, much like CHP is already doing a lot of education programs, but with our new lens of looking at the data, we're just going to be telling them, hey, can you concentrate that teen DUI training over here where we're seeing a lot of teen DUIs instead of kind of globally just doing it willy-nilly wherever. So there's a lot of stuff like that there's already funding for. And then in terms of infrastructure changes, some things that the Public Works has already been working on. They've been working on traffic safety for a long time, but I think this analysis will lead them to maybe to apply for more grants or looking and working with the supervisors on allocating funding to specific issues that perhaps weren't considered before. So there could be new funding requests that come from it and looking for grants and things. But so far, many of the departments, a lot of this is stuff that we feel confident we can do with our existing funding.
So as a community, if we wanted to bring a certain project to attention, like our Safe Routes to School,
Right.
which didn't get funded by the state or by the feds, you know, for the county to take something on, because when we started this, they said, oh, this would be a great Vision Zero project.
Yeah.
And since we didn't get the grant application, is this something that there will be a way for the community to come out and say, hey, we got something for you.
Yeah.
And
Your best bet is Catherine Barger. She oversees a large chunk of the money.
Because many of your sites are in District 5, or?
No, most of it, I would say, the highest concentrations of the corridors where there are a lot of collisions are in Districts 1 and 2, which is where the most people are. But Catherine Catherine Barger is your supervisor, and the supervisors do have sway over how Public Works allocates the money in their district. And so hearing from stakeholders and having projects lined up where it's an easy, cut the ribbon win for the supervisor, that would be my suggestion, is to kind of keep it on her radar as a priority for the community, because Public Works will respond.
She's very sensitive to it, so that's the.
Yeah.
I have two questions.
Yeah, of
Can you
course.
go back to the slide that Tom?
Yeah, time.
So it says draft action plan public review. Is
Yeah.
that public review or public review and comment?
Public review and comment.
So, okay, and I don't mean to be rude
No,
in
of
this
course.
question, but is this a process where you just catalog comments and report them? Or will those comments actually feed into the program that you submit to the board?
Our goal is to have them to feed in. I mean, I think it depends. So I think, I will be honest, this is a wonky plan. So, the process changes in it are things like change the guidelines on how you cite crosswalks, like da 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 da. So there are Public Works looking at how Public Works does things, or Public Health looking at, we want to have a safe route to seniors program. It isn't.
It's high level.
It's higher level, and so I am a transportation planner, and I deal a lot on like pedestrian plans and bicycle plans, and so people are very much like, here's my street, here's the problem, I want you to fix this problem. This is not that plan.
Right. Well, the reason I ask is and it'll feed in my next question. Our problem, and I'll just use this as an
Yeah, of
example,
course.
although in using this example, I'm not saying, this is our street, and here's our problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But our problem, for example, is on Crown Valley, south of Sierra Highway, the posted speed limit is 50 miles an hour, up to that stop sign. And when we asked the county Public Works,
Yeah.
can you please just drop it to 25 or 35?
Yeah.
The response back was, we can't do that because the state regulations,
Yes.
the way it's done,
Yes.
and since it's not in front of a school, this is how it is. So,
Right.
so if we can't get just simple changes that
Right.
take no effort other than a new sign implemented because of some sort of rigorous regulatory structure that we have no
Right.
comment on, how is this going to help Acton? Because that's all these problems, no U-turn where they shouldn't be, right there from Crown Valley to Sierra Highway. People turn U-turns all the time, and when you come out of Shell, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So like, oh, well, we can't really do that because we don't have jurisdiction because that's Caltrans, it's 100 feet from the ramps. Or, everything we've asked for has been
I know.
just caught in some sort of net that is amorphous
Right.
and ill-defined
Right.
and out of everybody's jurisdiction.
Right. So I will say on the speed limit thing, because this is a problem statewide that local
Yes.
jurisdictions are very fed up with. So there was a bill that went through the legislature last year that was supposed to find a new way of setting speed limits that wasn't based on people speeding. Because basically how the speed limit is set.
Is more
Based on
speeders, the
speeding.
higher it goes. Yes.
More speed, the higher it goes. Thank you, AAA. So the bill got watered down. It got turned into a task force that is supposed to be pulling together local jurisdictions along with Caltrans and other folks to look at how could the state revamp how they set the speed limit, and then come back to the legislature in January 2020 with a package of potential bills or of legislation to take. Because
So in a year.
in a year. So I will say, at least from the county side, while the answer may still be, right now we have to say no, the county is very interested in how do we have more local control, because it's crazy that we have to keep raising the speed limit, and our goal is to try to make the street safer. It doesn't make sense. So, but I think giving suggestions like that is a legislative change. So it would be great to get comments on what are the legislative changes, how can we better work with Caltrans, or if you're not seeing that
Legislative changes at the state level.
at the state level, or even just saying, you need to work better with Caltrans. Can you get Caltrans at the table, because these problems are in our community and the county is telling us no, it needs attention. So we do want your feedback, and that will shape the actions in there. So, yeah. But I appreciate that you.
Well, one thing that I hope that you take away from this, and it hasn't been mentioned yet, but I will mention it, obviously ATP is important.
Right,
But to this community, ATP is not just bicycles.
right.
It includes equestrian uses, and I saw that something went to the Board of Supervisors last week or 2 weeks ago saying, please allow those motor scooters in the county public works right of way, which they've never been allowed to be.
Yeah.
But we've never gotten that for equestrian uses. So they're still not allowed in the right of way, although when you talk to public works, well, we don't ticket them. It's like, yeah, but you could, you know. So they
Right, or
said,
you could accommodate it to make it
they
a
said
better
horses
experience.
have to be either in the roadway where the cars are or completely outside of the right of way. So if you wouldn't mind considering what active transport is in this community, we obviously have bikes. We have the, what was it, the bike race every year comes through here. The Tour de France
Yeah,
race,
the
LA.
Tour de California. California.
Tour
Yeah.
de LA.
Yeah.
But also we have other uses too, and boroughs, and we have all kinds of things, so anyway.
Yeah, I will take that back. Thank you. Sure. You're not the only community that has.
Yeah. Sometimes we feel like it though.
Is there any other questions or?
This might be a little overloaded. Do animal fatalities help fill up?
Thank you.
I'm glad it wasn't Saturday, so that was serious right now.
Yeah, that was great. All right. Next up, update on the SEA ordinance.
Oh, no, it's
Oh, is that too? Oh, sorry, I checked that, yeah, I tried, you know, I was trying to get this out of you. All right, implementation of Acton's filming standard, sorry.
Okay.
So,
I have a question.
yes.
Is Ruthie still planning on keeping her group together? Do we know?
Which one?
The filming committee.
I don't know.
I thought she had mentioned that she thought it had pretty much done everything that they could do, so I don't know, somebody would have to contact Ruth and ask her.
Okay.
My understanding. Okay. Okay, so where are we?
Well, we had a film permit came out the 3rd of January that, or a notice, film notice came out. And it was followed up, we had a meeting the next business day.
Yes.
And, which is I think the 6th of January, I might be off on my days. And we got an email while we were meeting, an email came in, or 10 minutes before we met, an email came into Ruth, she was at home sick, about concerns about restrictions on this film permit that we received a notice on the business day before. That was for a number of days during the month of January. And I know Mr. Gutmann's here about that. His name was on as the production manager. Location manager. So, and Mr. Gutmann asked the town council in his contact with Ruth, but we were meeting at the time so we didn't know about it, to consider supporting some different production schedule, a different production schedule than what he was told the county would support or agree to. And if I'm misstating this, you can correct me in a minute. And so we tried, when we learned about it within two days later, to put together a special meeting, but we couldn't get a quorum together to meet the time frame that Mr. Gutmann needed by January 24th. So, there was some communications between Mr. Gutmann and the town council, and Mr. Gutmann identified some of his concerns, which we can talk about tonight. But it triggered a whole other slew of activities that happened last week with filming that on Soledad Canyon Road that was additional filming that was added, I guess, on the 24th to your permit for filming on Soledad Canyon with the UAV that was apparently not noticed. And so it brought up a number of concerns with how noticing is done, how surveys are done, and how this particular filming involved traffic controls on Soledad Canyon between 6 and 9, they happen around 8:30, when the permit had said it was not supposed to happen until after 9. So anyway, a whole bunch of emails came out last week, back and forth between the town council and the county filming office, the CEO, and Film LA was involved about how all that came down. So there are a lot of there are a lot of concerns with how filming is being implemented in Acton. I know Mr. Gutmann has concerns about our standards. We have concerns about how our standards are even being implemented. So with that, we can turn it over to Mr. Gutmann. You can express your concerns.
Well, it's less of a concern and more of really wanting to just figure out how we can maybe make the communication better between the film industry, City of Acton, Film LA, the different entities who are in charge of administering and approving and conveying information. Because what happened the day before your last meeting was that we received notification through Film LA that the Department of Regional Planning had sort of come down and said, under no circumstances whatsoever would filming be allowed after 10 p.m. at Ponderosa Ranch, where filming has taken place for decades. As of a year or a year and a half ago, I'm kind of unclear on exactly what transpired, but something happened where suddenly that property in particular was given a very, very strict set of parameters under which they could operate. And those parameters were not really communicated clearly, I guess, to Film LA, because when I applied for the permit with Film LA, which was prior to the Christmas holiday, I applied for the permit on the 18th of December. It took them 2 weeks to get back to me and say, hey, there's these restrictions in place. And the restrictions are no different in many ways than restrictions anywhere else in the city and county of Los Angeles, which is if you're going to film before 7 a.m. or after 10 p.m., you have to survey the community, and the onus is on you as the production company to take into consideration the concerns of the community and residents who would be affected. And the radius is typically 300 to 500 feet from any filming activity. And we surveyed proactively, without being requested by Film LA, knowing that we wanted to do this outreach and get out ahead of it, a mile to a mile and a half from the proposed filming activity. And despite the fact that everyone we had approached said, by all means, you're fine with what you're doing, this seems really simple, and the Department of Regional Planning unequivocally allowed no exemptions to this restriction that was put on Ponderosa. So at that time, we had put a lot of time and energy into picking the place, for a lot of reasons. It's a beautiful property and fit perfectly with the story that we wanted to tell. We had planned our entire production around it. And then we're kind of put in a situation where it said, sorry, this is it, this is the deal. There is no exemption under any circumstance, which I've really never come across. I mean, we had done another, this is a series where each episode of the series is a movie. We have about 3 weeks to make the movie, so it's pretty fast. If you guys know anything about the timeline, a lot of times you have 6, 8 weeks, we have 3. So we're fitting a lot into a little, and every moment counts. And so to suddenly be told a week before we start filming, hey, by the way, you can't go past 10 p.m., when a lot of our movie takes place at night, was a real challenge for us. So, we were trying to do whatever we could to say, hey, is there an exemption or a qualification that could be made based on the circumstances? And it seemed like everyone we talked to was willing to have that conversation, except the Department of Regional Planning, who was willing to have zero flexibility with our request. And we tried to do as much as we could to talk to as many people as possible, gather that support. We found a lot of support, but still we were met with a hard no. And we're never really given any reason why that no was being applied so strictly. When you look at the CUP and the waiver provided to Ponderosa Ranch, it actually says in the waiver that no activity will be allowed unless these parameters are met by surveying the community, reaching approval, as mandated by Film LA, which we did. Yet, for whatever reason, it was still kind of handed down to us, no, this isn't impossible. So luckily, we were able to get creative, and we ended up moving half of the work that we had planned at Ponderosa Ranch literally across the street to Middleton Ranch. We have somebody from Middleton Ranch here with us who was part of that process. We did not plan this. We did not come intentionally together. I just wanted to come because we'd had some of these correspondences before, and I wanted to come, representing the community, the film community, and telling my story. But it was odd to us because you couldn't have been closer in that you were literally on one side of Soledad Canyon or the other. Yet at Middleton Ranch, there were fewer restrictions. The same community survey applied, and the survey was 500 feet, as it normally is. So the only property we had to survey to get approval to film late nights at Middleton Ranch was Pulsarosa Ranch. So they were the ones who actually had to sign off on that survey, and we were able to film later there. So it seemed to us that it might not be arbitrary, but what the reasons were behind this very strict rule of Pulsarosa Ranch, nobody could tell us why.
Well, I can tell you this, that what you're referring to in terms of on-location permits and filming are supposed to be at places that are not film ranches. They have no permanent structures for the purpose of filming, okay? So the restrictions to which you're referring generally in the Acton standards that we've sought was to have no filming after 10 p.m., period. That's what we requested. Because generators allowed, lights are bright, and if there's gunshots going on, they're particularly disturbing in the county, in the counties that we have. However, to my knowledge, there are two places that are seeking to use their property in a manner that is not set forth for the zoning that underlies their property. They seek to use their property as actual film studios, what would you call them, film lots, right? And those would be Pulsarosa and Middleton. So Pulsarosa has applied for its conditional use permit, and until it that will impose certain restrictions and make it clear what the restrictions are. Now this is what we've been told by the county. I don't know, for what the county considers are the regulations, you'll have to ask them, but what we've been told is that both Pulsarosa and Middleton are set up or intending or requesting to operate to operate as things that are more than just what on-location film permits are supposed to be, okay? Because they're actually seeking to operate as studio lots. So, I don't know what the right term is, but
Film ranches.
have film ranches.
Movie ranch.
Sure.
Yeah.
Movie ranch.
So until they get those conditions in place, the county has offered, I think, both of them have some sort of temporary operating. I think Middleton is operating in something called a clean hands waiver, and
They both have the same.
I don't know that Pulsarosa has a clean hands waiver. It might, but I don't know.
The waiver is almost identical.
Well, we know that we've been told, what we've been told is that Pulsarosa has a temporary permit that's for a year. And that, I guess, will be expiring sometime this summer. So I'm not aware that the conditions, the restrictive conditions on Pulsarosa don't also apply to Middleton.
They
That's
don't.
news to me. Well, that's,
Jackie, can I say something?
yeah.
We've been talking with Film LA and County Council and at length, and they want us to put together, outside of a town council meeting, a community outreach meeting with all entities present. Film LA is willing to come. We're here to, I'm with Supervisor's Office, for those of you who don't know who I am. We're getting both sides of this. We're getting the pushback, not just from the residents, and we appreciate, the importance of the quality of life, and we've done everything that we can to try to preserve that for you with filming. But then we have the filming industry as well. And Film LA really wants to be transparent and has kind of tasked me to put together a community outreach forum where we can really air these questions out from both sides, talk about regulations, talk about regional planning and permitting, talking about the CUPs that are in process to be approved, talk about the quality of life for the residents that are being so severely impacted, but yet the rights and the needs of filming as well, and to just really have a working forum where we can really have all parties, and I'm really asking the council at this point to work with me on getting the community stakeholders and concerned people on both sides of the fence, the ranches, the property owners, and all together where we can really address all of the questions. And Film LA is willing to be there, address those questions, and all of the county agencies as well. So I just wanted to say that right now, since we're in this conversation, that I wanted to come to you tonight with that. I don't think that this is the forum to do it in. I think we're going to need a larger room. I'm thinking maybe at the school. You can work with me on that.
Sure.
But we have to get to that point at this point.
Except for, it's not gonna be a meeting that's
It's
led
not a
by
council
Film.
meeting.
No, it's not gonna be a meeting that's led by Film LA, it'll be led by the
No,
county.
no. It
Okay.
will be, yeah, right.
Okay. Whatever, administered by the county, whatever.
Right.
I think
We'll
maybe a
be
little,
facilitating it, but with all parties involved so that all people can bring their questions and concerns together and just, let's get it out there.
I think a little background maybe for Mr. Goopin is about a year and a half, is that about right now? It's been about a year and a half? that we-
Yeah. I don't know what you're gonna say, so.
Well, about a year and a half, we, residents in the area around Middleton and Pulsarosa came to the council and brought up their concerns about their quality of life issues. Those areas are extensively used, and that's what started this. So this council created a committee, and we had meetings and meetings with the county and Film LA. And
Public meetings, we
Public
invited
meetings.
the public over and over.
And we came up with this list of proposed regulations, to say, for filming in Acton. And this is a year and a half process, and it sounds to me, Donna, like this year and a half process is getting tossed away now.
No, that's not it at all, Tom.
Well,
No, I know you feel that way, and I'm sensitive to that, but that's the purpose of this. We want to talk about, you know, the hours of filming. I know that surveying and noticing is a huge issue. They recognize that as well. We just really want to talk about how to make the process right.
well, that's good, because it's, you know, the noticing is a very flawed process.
We realize that.
Extremely
They
flawed
realize
process.
that.
Because some of the noticing that
And
went
I
out
think
for
Mr.
your
Goodman would
permit.
agree with that.
Yeah,
On both sides.
the noticing
Yeah.
on your
It's
project
one of the huge
Absolutely.
issues.
didn't even reach some of the residents that are very concerned in that area. So they were never noticed, even though they were within the geographic area that
Well,
was
I mean,
noticed.
in the permit, with the filming on Soledad, never even got noticed, period. I mean,
Yeah.
not even an e-notice.
When I'm confused about what happened there, because we had submitted the request to film on county roads with our original permit, which again was on the 18th of December. So they were aware that we had planned on filming on county roads on that date for weeks. And the approval didn't come down from the county until the day before. So the permit was released the day before, but the request had been in for weeks.
But it was
So-
never on any of the notices.
Well, I'm
And-
at a loss.
And
I mean,
things like, you're supposed to put 48, there was things like signage, road signage,
Yeah.
didn't happen. 48-hour notice to people saying, hey, there's gonna be road delays on here, didn't happen. And when we did get the permit, it did say no shooting between 6 and 9 on the permit.
Well, that was
And-
specifically not what Film LA told me, which
I-
was that
I-
the rush hour restriction was from 4 to 6.
I couldn't even begin to tell you what Film LA told you. I just know what the piece of paper said that we got.
But I'm telling you, is that what Film LA told me, because I had specific conversations about this, that Soledad Canyon Road rush hour was from 4 to 6 a.m., and that ended at 6, and that we could film earlier from 6 to 7 if we surveyed all of the residents along the road, because it was filming prior to 7. Otherwise, we could start our filming at 7 o'clock and go up until, I believe it's 3 o'clock. We were going to be done by 11 or noon anyways. But, you know, this is where the disconnect is
I don't
happening.
dispute that that's what they said, because we can't possibly know that, but we do know we have to go by what's written. and that's not what was written.
But
So
what's on
that's-
the permit is that we have permission to film there starting at 7 a.m.
No, actually says nothing, no, not between 6 and 9. And
I have the permit, I can show it to you.
Well, the permit we got, that we were told you got, doesn't say that, so.
Then I don't know, again, where the disconnect is, but the permit that I was issued by Film LA, who is the body that you have put in charge of issuing permits for the
We didn't
for this
put
We didn't
town.
put him in charge.
Well then,
The county.
The county needs to put Phil Melly in charge.
so if you guys want there to be a different entity, then you have to take measures to
We're not a
this.
city, we don't have jurisdiction. The county has jurisdiction.
Then it's complicated.
It is complicated because,
You know, and I think one of the things that might help is if you guys have some sort of a film liaison specifically for the town.
We have asked for that.
I think that's a good step, because you have that if you go downtown, you film in the Arts District, you go to Venice and you film on Abbot Kinney, there's a representative that you must contact and run your request through that individual, who then talks to all the appropriate people and makes sure that everything is being done in accordance with all of the stakeholders at
We have
play.
asked for that. That has
so
been
those
rejected.
are incorporated areas that
These
are,
are the points that I'm saying can be brought up at this time when we're all collectively there and representatives from everyone is there. That is the time to do this.
okay, so what we tentatively agreed upon to this point is going to be acted upon or is not?
We're going to,
Well, that's what I mean, so all the work we've done this year and the list of proposed went back and forth and we said, we like this, and you said, we can do this.
And this is the time to bring up those questions because county council will be there and people
Okay.
will be there from all agencies. That's what I'm trying
That
to
would
say.
be great.
From both sides, all sides, everyone. And that's what I'm working to do. While everybody's in the room together and we can collectively get on the same page and everybody's hearing the same.
I think it's great, except for we just want to make sure we're not going backwards.
We're not going backwards.
Okay.
We're going forward.
Is that your concern?
That is my concern.
Okay.
Their
And Donna hears it, I
concerns-
think.
Their concerns are the same as your concerns. They are hearing me, they are hearing us, we have talked, we have met. I am telling you that they understand that surveying and noticing is one of the biggest issues and problems, and the filming hours and the lighting. Those are the main concerns that you all still have. I have sent that message loud and clear, but we all have to be on the same page about it. And they are willing to be there, answer questions, take it on, and do it collectively with as many people from the community and the residents that are there. So I think we need to, plan a day together. I'm reaching out to you to help me come up with a date to calendar this, a location that will meet the masses, and let's do this and move forward.
Well, we can
continue to discuss it backward.
vote to do that. I mean, it's on the agenda.
It's not going to be a council meeting. It's a separate
No,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a council
You
meeting.
don't need to vote on it. I'm telling you, we're going
No,
to
but we have
organize
to agree to
this.
participate.
Of course, yes, but we're going to be doing this. I'm offering this to you. I'm telling you, we're going to schedule this.
And I think the industry wants the exact same thing as you
Yeah.
guys do. We want the rules to be clear, we want them to be
Yeah.
communicated effectively, and we want to have an administrator in Film LA that is responsible. Because
Understand
they're derelict right
we
now.
want
You
the
have
same
to
exact
understand
things.
though, and I'm not sure you do, there are two different kinds of filming that we're talking about going forward. Once the Middleton CUP goes in, and once the Pulsa Rosa CUP goes in, these permits won't be issued anymore, okay? We won't-
Why is that?
Because they will have a CUP that will allow whatever filming is done in whatever the permit conditions are. It will not be an on-location filming operation anymore. It will be as if it's being filmed on a studio set. That's what you need to understand. That we in this town recognize that there are, I know of two locations that are seeking to operate as film ranches or film studio, whatever you want to call them. And so therefore they are no longer deemed on-location permitting. They
Sure.
will be permitting at a film facility. So those conditions, therefore the conditions subject to that they will be subject to are set forth in standards that we've asked for. We don't know because the conditions haven't come out yet, so we don't know. So do you understand? I'm not sure I'm saying this clearly.
Well, you're differentiating between the work that will ultimately take place at one of the 2 certified ranches and work that will take place anywhere else in Acton.
That's
That's correct.
correct. That's what we've been told. There's a difference. When you get a CUP as a film studio, okay, it is an allowed use in the ag zoned properties if you go through the CUP, and if all the findings are made that the conditions will ensure that the surrounding residential areas will have full use and enjoyment of their property and not be disturbed and blah, all the findings that you have to make for CUP. We have been told, now maybe we're wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but we've been told that once that happens, boom, that place operates, whatever place it is, Milton, Pulsa Rosa, operates as a film studio, subject to just those conditions and no other stuff.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
So,
Once we get to that stage, you'll have a certain set of conditions that apply to your movie ranches, and then a different set of conditions that will apply to the rest of the town. And it's the same the way it exists now. You have certified stages, which have a certain set of rules that apply to them.
No, because what's happening now, if you look at what the existing conditions are, almost all of them are case by case.
That's what
And
currently
that is
exists.
not how the CUP is going to run. I've never seen a CUP permit for, so there are many things that have happened in the last 2 years that didn't happen in filming operations even 10 years ago. So a lot of things are different now, and including the way filming is done and the impact filming has had.
Population's growing.
How we move forward.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
And how we move forward.
Yes, exactly. And one of the things, Don, I'm hoping that you'll contemplate, or when you put this together, is the county code requires the county to make findings that the permit that's issued won't interrupt the use and enjoyment of the surrounding properties.
Absolutely, and that's
And
conversation we had.
we are very grateful. I would be very, very glad, I think the council would too, if that is a centerpiece of the issue that's discussed, because that's really important.
I have delivered that, and I understand, and they understand.
Yeah.
They understand. They want to be, I mean, they want to have good communication with you. They
Right.
understand the importance of having a good working relationship with the community to have production continue. They want to work with the community. So they really asked me to put this together. So,
And I think
It's
it's
a good
great.
faith.
So, yes.
thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
We can move on because I know these conversations will continue, but that's why I'm here today. Our movie's done. I didn't have to come here just to meet all of you face to face, though I'm glad that I did. I'm coming here because I think it's about the bigger picture. And I think there is a way that the residential community, business community, the film community can all coexist. And I think it's just about communication. It's about setting down what the parameters are and then working within those parameters. But when it seems like the goalposts are moving a lot right now, and so it makes it hard for everybody to find where that common ground is. So as long as we keep talking and all have the best interests of making a plan and moving forward, at the centerpiece, I think we'll be able to come to it pretty easily.
I don't necessarily want to say the goalposts have been moving around. I think there's a very clear direction on some rules that we're trying to put in place. And Phil Melly did a very poor job of relaying those to you, because we've had meetings and those rules were supposed to be implemented. And they didn't get implemented clearly. And for instance, when a permit, you get your permit, you put all your information in there, and when it prints it out at the very end, there's some fine print that says, here's restrictions in Acton. You can't film before 7 and you can't film after 10 o'clock. Now, when you put in your film permit that you want to film from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m., in my mind, Phil Millet's permit process should have flagged you right there and stopped you. But it doesn't. It puts it in at the end. And there's a lot that can be done.
Or they don't tell you about it until the day before.
Until the permit's issued.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Then all of a sudden you see restrictions on there you may have no idea. So yes, the implementation is awful.
Yeah.
And if anything comes out of this large group gathering, the message is like Jackie said, that the community peace and well-being is very important, and then the permitting process is flawed. It's horrible.
Absolutely.
So with those two
Good work
things.
needs to be done.
I worked in film industry for a long time. And there are places where you cannot even step on a street until 8 a.m. They won't let you park your trucks, they won't let you get out, they won't let you have your coffee. So, and we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to get some basic rules that allow the neighbors to have peace and quiet and enjoy their mornings and evenings. And that's all.
Because the two things are not mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive.
But the system doesn't work when the rules are set up and the community thinks it's gonna work, and then suddenly, I think the goalpost does move, has moved on a few things, so. To be mutually exclusive, both sides have to respect each other.
I don't think the community's changed the goalposts. I think Film LA has moved it around, trying to find the boundary. You used a term here when you spoke earlier, you said unreachable boundary. And I was gonna ask you about that, but I think we're pretty clear what that is now. But
yeah, I've had a horrible experience with Film LA recently. Not just on this particular permit, but on numerous permits. And I think that they need to step up their accountability big time, because right now they're not doing a service to the community, and they're not doing a service to the industry. So who are they really serving right now? I think they're understaffed, I think they're overwhelmed, and I think that they really need to figure out a better way of responding to both community concerns and industry requests so that both can be met in a more timely fashion. It's just not happening right now. So I think a lot of our frustrations are with the process, and we all have to actively work to try and improve that process. And this kind of communication is one step in that direction. And I have a separate meeting coming up with Film LA to discuss past, present, and future, and how we can continue to make that better. Because I found them to be pretty asleep at the wheel in this process.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Update.
I'll send you that permit showing where it says 60.
Yeah.
I have it right here.
Please.
If you want to look at it. So.
All right, update on SEA ordinance.
Okay, so the SCA ordinance, we've had a lot of discussions about it. We've submitted our comments. In an announcement at the Association of Rural Town Council meetings last week, there were some changes announced. Iris Chief and Susie Tay were there to announce some implementation elements of the SCA. They have announced some good things. The alternative that would have put a chunk of properties within Acton out of the exemption for single-family residences has been taken off the table. So they will not be processing that alternative. And as an exchange, or whatever the right word is, they are going to allow communities to make single-family residential development be subject to the SEA if they so choose in their CSD. So that's a huge thing.
it's a huge thing.
Now they have made changes to the draft ordinance. They have also made changes to the implementation plan. I have not had a chance to read them, so it's essential that we all read them because it's really important. I don't even know if they have a strikeout version. I'll check, and if they don't, I'll ask them to provide us a strikeout version because that guidelines document is very lengthy and I don't want to have to read the whole thing again. However, they have a hearing scheduled before the Planning Commission on, I think it was February 27th.
I think it was the 27th.
And Wednesday, yes, February 27th. And we don't have any meetings between now and then in which we can read them, read the changes, see if we're all happy with them, and tell the community that what we've seen, and then comment on it, all in the space of the time we have. And here's the other problem, the staff report will not be issued until February 14th. So the staff report will, I believe, will say the things like we got these comments from, you know, A, B, and C, and this is how we incorporated them, or this is how we don't agree with them, whatever it is they're going to say. So it's important to hear the staff report before we comment on them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys want to try to put together a special meeting to do that, to get comments from the public after they've heard. Well, what? I don't, because they're, my understanding, Kelly, you can correct me, that they're anticipating that action will be taken on the SEA this time. I haven't checked to see if the, pachinko ball process of CUPs for existing CUPs has been fixed. That was a big problem for the water haulers, so I hope it has, but I haven't had a chance to go through that, so.
Well, I think we could try to, I mean, the 25th would be probably about as close, because the 18th is President's Day.
Yep.
So we can't.
So 25th.
25th would be the next possible. I'd have to check with Jim on availability for here.
Yeah. And then if we do want to say something, we'd have to crank it out to them by.
Yeah,
Well,
48 hours.
Yeah, we've already made our comments. I think we need to make sure that our comments were,
Heated.
were heated in that.
Well, but we might have.
Additional comments.
We don't, I
New
don't,
stuff.
supposedly they've changed the thresholds for ministerial actions from 500 square feet to 5,000. But Iris told me, she gave me homework. She said, well, because I said, well, even if you have like, the fuel mod is 100 feet, I think, for Zone B.
Right.
So a 100-foot radius is like 8,000 square feet. So, nobody can meet, even if what they build is an inch square inch size, it can't meet the ministerial exemption. So, but I don't know. I have to look at what it says. So,
Well, so do you feel like
highly compressed.
more time we can find something that week of the 18th?
Maybe so. There's no
I'm
point
trying to
in
balance like having enough
Yeah.
time to look through it all with having anything to say about it. I mean, it might be less to say than getting through it all. In other words,
Yes. But there's no point in meeting before the 14th, before we've read.
yeah,
staff
that's what I'm
report.
getting at. So I think, do we want to shoot them for either the weekend of the 23rd, 24th, 25th, somewhere in there, and try to figure out.
Or we should have a public meeting so people can.
Yeah. Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Just a single agenda.
Single agenda item,
Yeah.
special meeting.
Yeah, any of
Okay.
that, any of that.
So I will check.
I'm
with-
gone that weekend, the President's weekend though, but. I
Yeah,
should be
but
back
anytime
the
after.
weekend, yeah.
Okay. So I will check with Jim on what's availability for here, and then we'll go from there.
And I'm
So-
sorry, I just didn't get a chance to
We
read
kind
it.
of, we kind of got something we asked for, right? To be able to use our CSD to specifically target areas of this thing that we don't
That's
want in our community. Which, now we got what we asked for, possibly got what we asked for.
Well, what
Begs
we
the
asked for-
question of how will this work? Because our CSD may not be updated for years, and this thing is gonna get adopted in much less time.
We didn't get what we asked for in regards to that. What we got was, there will be no exception. I mean, there will be no alternative. So we don't have to worry about the CSDs.
All single-family residents.
Other
are
CSD
exempt.
communities have to worry about the CSDs. The single-family exemption in the Antelope Valley plan
It's gonna
stands
stay. It's
for
not gonna,
all SEAs and all properties in the SEA stands.
okay.
And if a district, a community wants to not have the exemption apply, they can
Put it in
put
CSD.
that in the CSD.
Okay.
So that's not something we asked for,
Oh, no,
we just
okay,
didn't want the
okay,
alternative.
I got it right. I had it backwards. I thought that we were gonna put that in our CSD.
No,
To
no,
give us
I
that
don't,
protection.
I don't want that.
No, well,
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
Okay.
And there was comments on the taking, a lot of concerns, Ann was there.
I have more concerns. Sorry. Can I say something?
Yeah, have you read the revised?
We've been working on it with Diane, of course, with the Wilshires as well. I have not read the
One that came out
revised
last week.
one. My concern overall is that, and it's the same thing all the time, there's just a few of us, when you think about how many people we are really, there's just a few of us that really work on these things, or really understand them, or are dealing with the county and doing all that. So I think the impact that this is going to have overall, and you know me, I'm crazy on property rights, so overall on property rights, this can set a precedent so that it can switch. The county can one day just, I mean, they've put so many things into that ordinance that until you go to build anything, you're not going to know. If you're just, your neighbor down the street and they go to build something. I know it's exempted right now, but even the commercial properties are gonna affect this. It is a taking, and people need to be concerned. People need to read this ordinance. And so anyway, I don't always speak correctly, so I apologize for that. But it is very concerning, this ordinance. And if you are a builder, if you own property, be concerned, because the county is rolling over the top of us right now, and it's frightening to me. It's frightening that.
No, you're absolutely right.
And I read an article in a magazine. It was about.
I'm the correspondence secretary, so the signature's on the emails, but it comes from all of us. So an aspect, and I don't know if it's been fixed, we asked them to take away the 1-to-1, the 2-to-1 taking for land that has no biological resource value, and the 1-to-1 taking for land that has less than no biological resource value, and the 3-to-1 taking for land that has biological resources that are secure and not threatened. That's a 3-to-1, that's a 75% taking. So I don't know if any of that has changed. But I certainly hope that the Acton Town Council isn't the only entity saying it. Because there are a lot of people who live in other communities that wish it were more like 6-to-1 and 7-to-1 for all lands. And they are very vociferous. So.
When I take somebody out and talk with them about a piece of land, which I do.
By getting rid of the alternative.
Yes.
There was a large number of people that could have
No,
challenged this.
No, okay, yeah. I think
The pool is shrinking.
there are very few people who are saying the things we're saying. That's on them saying.
Okay. All right, so we have an update. I'm gonna follow up with Jim and get a date.
So there will be another meeting. We're going to put together another public
I'll
meeting
follow.
on the SCA. So please tell everybody in the SCA, it's about 30 square miles of Acton. It's about a third of Acton is in the SCA. So a lot of people.
Most of that along Santa Clara River?
Well, the SCA is called the Santa Clara River SCA. However, most of the portion of Acton that's in the SCA is not in, on, or near the river or its tributaries, or its drainage filters. Well, like your farm is entirely in it. Or the old farm you had.
Yeah, but I mean, that's in the SEA.
Yeah.
All the way up to the top of the mountain. It's halfway up Mount Gleason.
Well, that's where the water starts from.
That's-
Not my problem now. I keep telling myself, not my problem.
Somebody told me what to say. Not my circus.
Jackie, when people at the ARTC meeting, did anybody mention to these people who are happy to have their property in an SBA with all the restrictions, did anybody ask any of these people how they would feel if they tried to sell their property down the road and nobody would buy it because they're so restricted?
Well, Angela Togi was there,
Okay.
and she said, I'd like to hear from the people who are in favor of all of these restrictions. Well, a question along the lines of what you're asking. And there was some answer back from people indicating that they want to protect their habitats, which is,
They understand that they're, it's not just the habitat.
I can't possibly guess what people understand or don't understand.
No, but the point is that they make any comments that all they said was they want to protect their habitat.
That was, well, you were there, that's what they said, so they want to protect. I don't want to misrepresent, but I thought that's what they said.
It was from some of my comments, and then the lady who commented back, we had to agree to disagree on that.
But their justification was to protect their resources.
Right, to protect the resources and their natural resources, but they really don't want any other building or developments in their areas, and they're pretty clear on that.
What I don't think they understand is that we have, in our SCA, we have huge non-residential uses. We have Pulsarosa, We have Middleton Ranch. We have all our water haulers that supply water to everybody. We've got an enormous, 2 enormous campgrounds. I mean, so most areas with SEAs in the Antelope Valley don't have anything but residential uses in their SEAs. And they're much smaller. They're teeny tiny compared to, you should see Green Valley. It's just right up the river bed. And we've always said if you had just left it in the river bed, which is where it was, we would not have, because you're not allowed to build there anyway, because it's, you know, river. But anyway.
I wanted to connect them all. It's horrible. It is horrible.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we've said it's horrible or not horrible. We've just asked questions.
Yeah,
And we look forward to the answers in the staff report. Okay.
What to say about this?
Jackie, I want to thank you for this, by the way.
Oh, the summary,
Your
Yes,
summary,
it was very
yes,
helpful.
it's very, very good.
So, okay, I'm gonna just hit the highlights. There is a proposed business registration program that the county Department of Consumer and Business Affairs has been working on for probably more than a year. According to the information on their website, the program is for the purpose of benefiting businesses by connecting them to county services, because it will provide the county with a database that can be used to make this connection. Now, this is in their letter, in their summary, they gave to the Board of Supervisors a summary letter on October 25th with the draft ordinance. It wasn't, I couldn't find it under the board agenda item because I think it was just a submittal, so it wasn't an itemized thing that the board discussed. So we got this letter directly from the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, or DCBA, not through any other, it's not posted on their website that I could find. So any information that is collected by the business registration program will be shared with all of the county agencies and departments for enforcement purposes, and it says that straight away. DCBA recommends, so the draft ordinance that's been prepared, as it's currently written, it's not been approved and not gone to the board yet, exempts home-based businesses. But the DCBA recommends that home-based businesses that decision be reconsidered within 2 years. So basically to be captured by the BRP, the Business Registration Program. Even though all the outreach materials and all the outreach meetings that were done stated that home-based businesses would be exempt. Thus no input was obtained or sought from home-based businesses. I have a fundamental concern with that because we have home-based businesses here in Acton. And Acton was the first community that ever got home-based businesses allowed throughout the entire county. So if all the material that was disseminated to the public said that, and it said only brick and mortar facilities will be part of this, everything else will be exempted, that's what the literature said. So of course home-based businesses aren't going to go out of their way and participate in these roundtable meetings on an ordinance that doesn't affect them. And so I was really stunned last week to see that the DCBA really recommends that home-based businesses be captured. That's a big problem I have, and that's the recommendation of the board. There are home-based businesses from which residents here in Acton earn very small incomes, and which by their very nature cannot be done inside the home as required by the home-based business ordinance that the county adopted some time ago, including things like people who have chickens and they sell eggs. That's a business. People who offer writing lessons to, high school kids. It's not a writing academy, which requires a CUP, but, that's a business. And those, of course, cannot be done inside the home. So a concern I have is when the home-based businesses are brought into the fold and have to comply and register, then as soon as that happens, regional planning is going to get a notice, oh, there's a small business that teaches writing every, lesson once a week or something. And an enforcement action will ensue because home-based businesses, by county code, have to be inside the home. You can't do the business outside the home. What?
That's not true in our City because of the CSD change we made. And I thought Acton was gonna put that same,
We've asked for
Provision.
the home-based businesses, any home-based business to be allowed and be impact-based. We don't know if that's gonna happen. As the CSD stands now, that would, a business in Acton would be deemed to not comply with the home-based business because of, unless it's done inside the home, which, you know, chickens and horse riding, you can't, anyway. And there's a million others. And I don't want to go into any more detail because I don't want to risk people getting enforced. A big problem is I didn't find anywhere in the ordinance or on the website or in the county code where the term business is defined. So, is a business an LLC or a 501c4? Because if it is, then Acton Town Council is a business that would be subject to this regulation. Is it 501c3 organizations, whether incorporated or not? And even if they don't pay anybody, is that a business? It doesn't say. So if that is captured, then the Women's Club is a business, and PTSO is a business, and a whole bunch of other groups. What about nonprofits that pay salaries to the directors or members, such as organizations that win contracts under the county's homeless initiative, or agents under the county's park funder, grants under the county's park funding measures? Are they businesses? If not, why not? If so, why so? It's concerning to me that this entire business registration program, I cannot find a definition of business. Right. And another problem is that the whole purpose of this is for business benefit, to connect the business with county services. But if you look at the list of information they're asking for a lot more than that requires. They're asking for articles of incorporation, identification of officers, they're asking for tax ID numbers, and if you're sole proprietor, that could mean your social security number. Hours of operation, if you rent or own. I mean, a lot of questions that are invasive if the purpose is really just to connect businesses with county services.
most of us don't wanna have anything to do with it.
I'm sorry?
Most of us don't wanna have anything to do with it.
Well, now, that's a great segue, Elizabeth, because then the question is, what are the penalties and enforcement actions, right? Well, the draft ordinance says violations will be in accordance with Division 1, which Division 1 already exists in the code. Division 1 under Title 7. And it includes a lot of restrictions, things like right of entry conditions, which I think allows a county to search your premises, including your house if it's a home-based business, at any time without a warrant. You agree to that in exchange for getting a license or whatever this is. Now, it doesn't say what elements of Division 1 are going to be the enforcement provisions for the business registration program. But these are in Division 1, so, you know, until we get clarification. There are restrictions on communication devices that you can install in your business that I don't even understand. Civil penalties such as 6 months in jail and $1,000 in fines for every day of non-compliance. And what bothers me a little bit is if this whole program is supposed to help businesses, and I'm mostly concerned about home-based businesses. I mean, these are my comments to the community. Is if it's supposed to help them, why do you need all these penalties if you don't comply? And it's a scary thing for people. Then they have a $185 fee that they want to collect annually. That the fee, they received a lot of public input about, you know, for small businesses, super small, micro businesses, whatever, maybe you can have a fee based on revenue. And I know the business I run, where it's licensed, that it's revenue based. It's an adder. You have a base fee and then an adder. But DCBA said that they need basically every penny to support the program. Okay, so every business will have this $185 fee, annual fee. Now again, home-based businesses are exempt on the draft proposal, but are recommended for future. Yes. But a problem I have is that there's no, I read their staff report, they don't say what their revenue is, they don't say how many businesses they're going to capture, so there's no actual evidence that they need every penny from all the businesses to support, because they don't even say how much it's going to cost. They have setup costs, right? 1.8 million or something like that. But these are annual. $185 is an annual fee to maintain the system once it's set up. And then the other problem I have is that, so, okay, in 2 years when they bring a couple thousand home-based businesses in, that's a big jump in revenue, but where's the evidence that the costs are gonna jump by that same amount, you know? So it seems to me that it's not gonna be a linear increase when they get the cost covered for the program once after the first 2 years. The linear increase, it's not gonna be, you know, a per business increase in the cost. So I'm bothered by that. And finally, I've mentioned a little bit about the outreach. You know, a lot of there was no reason for home-based businesses to participate because material said that they wouldn't even be part of it. But we weren't informed about it until just 2 weeks before, well, all the roundtables had happened and all the meetings had happened, and then we got the notice just before the last town council meeting in September, and there was only one more meeting left. So, and the comment period closed on September 30th. So we never even got a chance to learn about it, present it to the community, find what the community thought, make comments, submit to the community, hear back, and then submit the comments by September 30th. So we had a compressed and truncated outreach experience that I think gave them a skewed response. They only had 75 surveys turned in countywide. And of all the 17 meetings that were held in August and September, I think they had like 110 people went to them. So it's not like a huge, you know, I'm concerned that what people really think, a lot of people didn't go, so they didn't share their thoughts. And another concern is that they did a good job cataloging all the comments they had, but it doesn't look like any of the comments were factored into any of the recommendations, other than, well, we hear that businesses wanted to look at less than $185 for micro businesses based on revenue, but we can't do that because we need all the money to cover the services. But other than that, I mean, there were 14 general recommendations on how the county could do a better job outreach, but not even talked about. So it, you know, it bothers me a little bit getting, and I mentioned this in Ms. Lance, getting public comment and, you know, cataloging it and reporting it. The whole comment period is pointless if those comments aren't
integrated,
at least factored in or considered or shown that you said, oh, we think that's a crazy idea because of A or B or C, but it's not even, which is troubling to me. So, and this thing was, there was one thing that said this thing was supposed to be in effect or by March 1. Now this was from, I think, October, or maybe it was in August. One of the board actions, I don't remember which. But, I don't think it's happening March 1, but I know it's not on the agenda for next week, but I don't know about anything else. So, do you know, Donna, if this is going to...
I don't know a date. I can find out.
Well, we're going to probably make comments, or want to hear from the community.
Absolutely, you should. Absolutely.
It's a scary thing.
It doesn't seem like something that philosophically the supervisor will, you know, support, but please.
She's only one vote.
Send your comments, yes.
And, you know, I reached out to Susan Zonter. She knew nothing about it. And the report said, it says...
I haven't talked to her about it at all.
No, I just asked her about it last week. She's like, what are you talking about? And I told her. And then she said, well, they should have a licensing program. The county should. I said, well, this is different. This is not... The county does have a licensing program. So, but the report on October 25 talked about how they reached out to all these town councils. I don't know of any town councils in District 5 that were spoken to. I don't know if Agua Dulce was, but certainly we weren't until like after all the round table that had happened, you know, 3 weeks earlier. Anyway, so I jotted down, summarized these thoughts, and I think the town council needs to write a letter if they're concerned with these, or at least share the thoughts and ask the community to comment. Hopefully we'll hear from a lot of... But the problem is, we're not going to hear from a lot of business owners because they don't want to be on the grid.
Of course not.
So, and this is if there are enforcement actions against our small businesses that have writing, it's like, I can't even think about the hell that will happen.
Why not?
And I didn't put that in my comments because I didn't Don't know if, I don't want to get any business owners here in trouble. So I don't even know how to broach the subject, honestly.
Well, we definitely need a definition of what they consider
Yeah.
business.
I made a note of that, yeah.
And if there is a business definition, I apologize, but I spent probably 2 hours looking for one. I found a definition of home-based business, and that says you can only have one employee or one volunteer. So, I mean, honestly, none of the home-based businesses will benefit from the county's services because most of them deal with connecting employers to employees, talent managing, you know.
Yeah.
So you can't you can only have one employee or you're not a home-based business, so.
Right.
Anyway.
Do we have any action you want to take?
Elizabeth has a question. Oh,
Yes.
Well, I don't understand how it's supposed to benefit a business by this business registry.
We've asked that
What's it
question
supposed-
several
What
times.
are they gonna do for a business?
They'll connect you to county services.
But like I said, you probably don't wanna be bothered with it.
The county doesn't really have our services.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, this whole action started out as a wage enforcement ordinance, wage enforcement action. In fact, if you see the very first board motion that is referred to in this report, it's called minimum wage enforcement or something, wage enforcement. And that was the initial impetus, which is fine. You know, of course, nobody's going to be opposed to that. Of course, home-based businesses only have one employee or one volunteer, so I don't know how they, but the whole impetus was wage enforcement, which is important. But it's morphed into something completely different. And I think it's going to affect the 5th District more than any other area. Because here, home-based businesses, our home-based businesses are pretty visual, right? You can see chickens and writing lessons. In a city where everybody's in an apartment, it's not so visible.
Online, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so
I
we're gonna
understand.
be tapped, like, I think, so.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somebody, I feel awkward making a motion because I feel very strongly about this. So if somebody thinks we should write a letter about this, they can make a motion.
I assume if we were to write a letter, we'd be in opposition, not asking for correct little deficits.
Well, I think you have to do both, like with the
Based
high
on the
speed.
fact that
the
it
high-speed
provides
rail,
no services for,
Yeah, well,
there's no
Exactly.
benefits.
but like with the high-speed rail, if you just oppose it,
Well, yeah, for X, Y, and Z. I'm not
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
I say no.
oh, okay, yeah.
Let's go beyond just
Well, I
saying no.
liked Jackie's, I don't know if all you read it, but I liked her questions that she raised.
Yeah.
And they're questions that would need to be answered.
And I sort of summarized them.
Whereas to take a stand,
Yeah.
they need to be answered.
I just don't know. I don't
They
think
generally
people
won't.
really know
No,
about
they
this.
generally don't, but hopefully we've got to ask them in order to possibly get them answered.
Have you gotten any response from anybody? I mean, I published tons of this stuff already, and I don't know.
Response from
Zero.
people or response from county?
From people.
No.
No.
Well, this is the first time that this council has talked about it in public.
Yeah, but I published all of the emails, and I wrote an article about it before that, and
But Lillian, if people did look into it, they'd think home-based
They're
businesses
exempt.
doesn't touch me. And now that's not true.
I'll fix that, but, well, people have got to know that,
I think it'll reach out and we are an LLC, 501c4. We're a business, but we're not, obviously, we don't. But we have a small bank account that we pay for our mailbox with, and we take donations. What about all of our rescue animal operations? What about, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of businesses in Acton that are, there are things in Acton that could be businesses.
Hence the need for.
There
the
probably are businesses.
interrogatory. They want to find out what's here and what can be tapped. I mean, that's the point of it.
Or actually what can be shut down and you
Oh,
have to leave your property.
I just think, yeah,
Well.
something they can take it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so,
Do you think we should write a letter asking our concerns?
Let's write them a letter expressing our concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a motion.
It's a motion to write a letter to express our concerns. And I would say,
Would you be a home-based business? No, you got more than one employee.
Right.
You're a CUP, so I guess not.
And it was a business first before there was ever a home on it.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll second it. I'll show my partiality.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
but just, we should bring it, well, I think it's possible to take a position on it before the questions are answered, based on what we see.
Yeah, I don't think
We
that
have
was
to come to consensus on
forestalled.
that position,
That
but
was forestalled, not forestalled by your motion, so, yeah, so I'll draft a letter and send it around, and you guys can put comments on it and change it. You can, or you can go ahead and write whatever you want right now.
Procedurally, we had,
We're done.
okay, all right, okay, we go.
yes.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion's carried.
So are you officially oppose it based on, and give reasons for opposing it, or are you just going to be asking more questions?
We haven't come to that consensus yet. Correct?
Correct.
We're going to come up
Okay.
with the reasons. And,
Okay, all right, whatever
well,
you guys.
I don't know where I feel about it, but
Well, do you guys, so should we have another motion to oppose it?
I think that would be useful.
are we ready to oppose it?
I don't know, do you have any idea, Donna, when this is gonna go to the, we might not have time to dither.
idea, but I'll find out.
So I can say, as presented, we're in opposition because of all these reasons.
Oh, okay, all right, okay,
Okay.
okay, that works,
That's what I was trying to
Okay.
say originally, maybe I didn't say it very clearly.
okay.
If that's covered in the original motion,
I
then
think
we're good.
All right, announcements, correspondence.
There were some, hold on a second. We had, an account, okay, so we had a property owner come here asking about what the community's feelings would be on a storage, what do you call it, storage facility at the place that used to be zoned for the archery center next to the RV park, which I can't remember the name.
All the,
And, Isle Valley. And so we had said, well, we would support it as long as the zone change was conditioned that that's what they would
It
build.
was enclosed, it was
Yes.
enclosed
That-
for boats.
Boats.
Yes, and that's what they would build as part of the zone change, okay? And county responded to him last week and said his DP zone request will require an AV plan amendment, and that the amendment might not be approved because the AV plan was only just adopted a short while ago. But, and more importantly for our concerns, the county will not impose a restriction on the DP zone change that limits the use to that which is proposed, which is chilling, but. Also, Public Works will be here on March 4th to discuss mulch and dumping and reporting. And there's a snow warning on the I-5 tonight. And the SRTS application was not successful. However, Caltrans is moving ahead with safety improvements near the freeway ramps on Crown Valley, which I'm sure everybody's seen. So they're working on that. And that's all I have for announcements.
No announcements, but I just, could you back up, Jackie, to the storage facility?
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand. So they're saying they don't want to put a DP, they want an actual zone change to go through?
No, they're willing to have a DP.
But
They're fine.
But without conditions?
No, they are willing to have the conditions. The county, okay, the property owner's fine with the conditions that we talked about.
Right.
But the county said they will not condition a zone change for a use that secures the zone change. Which
So
is,
would the county give a DP without a development plan?
yeah, they would do the DP, and they don't have to have it.
Right.
And we were told by county, they will not do that, but they would look at what the CUP says and agree or not agree to that based on normal zoning findings, instead of looking at the restrictions that secured the zone change in the first place. It's horrifying what they said.
But then it wouldn't be a DP, right?
It's still a DP, that's what doesn't make sense. They said they would do a DP zone change, but not condition the zone change on building,
What they said they would do.
building the thing that they promised in exchange for getting the DP zone change. It is still a DP zone change. It's baffling to me what county has said.
Yeah, I guess I'm in trouble.
But it doesn't matter, they're probably, they have to go through and get
Yeah,
this
it sounds-
AD plan amendment anyway. A power alliance, which all unincorporated people and businesses, and all unincorporated areas will now be switched over to a group called the Clean Power Alliance. There is a time frame when you can opt out.
You can
which
still
is
opt out
March.
even after the time frame.
Yeah, but there's some fee or something.
Yes.
But, and then a lot of cities signed on to it, so,
No, it was actually like February, it's already passed.
oh, I thought it was March 1st.
No.
I've been.
Yeah, you know, it's okay.
You
So-
talk.
Yeah, no, it passed. So I've been just getting information because what it came is, and I don't know if anybody got it, but it looked like a throwaway flyer. Like, I almost thought it was like a solar company trying to get business or something. And so a lot of people I know tossed it, but if you actually read it and then went on their website, you find out that, hey, de facto, you're signed up if you don't opt out. And they have 3 different tiers of power. There's like dirty, clean, and
No,
green.
super clean.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
They can still opt out. They're actually coming to Anvil Bakers to
That's
speak
right.
Okay,
this month.
okay, good.
The Antelope Acres Town Council meeting, so I was planning on going, I have it on my day planner, so,
So anyway.
thank you, Don.
But yeah, do your research. I've seen, different people have talked to them. If you have solar, some people I saw said that, hey, they were buying back on the net metering, they were giving more for your net metering than Edison was. I don't know, I haven't confirmed or, I can't confirm or deny that. I would encourage you though to call and go talk to them and get the full scoop of what actually you are being signed up for. But yes, if you don't do anything, you're in it.
Well, they'll be at the Antelope Acres Town Council.
Yeah.
And so, one thing that, I mean, there could be good things coming out of this. Like, for example, one thing, according to what I read, they're looking for places to put up utility, like solar,
Yeah.
not big solar farms,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, and you know, the school board is looking at having a company come in and put up solar over the parking lots. And when the gentleman who presented at the school board meeting talked about that, I put a couple comment card and asked some questions because, you know, the deal was they were going to sell X amount of energy to the school. And if the school didn't use it all up, too bad, they had to pay for it. No, they had to pay for it. And if they used more than that, then it was a different structure, I don't remember. But I was concerned, I said, this organization, if you do this, I was telling the school board, they're going to sell the electricity to Edison. And the guy got up and he said, no, we're not selling power to Edison. I'm like, you're not, and you can't have it, at the school board meeting, you can't have a discussion. But I was like, and here's the problem, on August 1, when you have peak generation from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., and the school is not open, so it's all minimal, maybe some refrigerator air conditioning working or something. This company said they're not putting that power on the grid. That doesn't make sense to me. That's their maximum. And now with Edison's rates, I don't know what this clean power now less rates are, but Edison's peak now is from, what is it, 10 in the morning till 6 or 8 at night.
12 to 6.
So, I'm sorry?
12 to 6.
12 to 6, okay. So, which means that peak power generation by the school in, say, September, or even when school goes in the end of August, most of the time that school is in session is non-peak because they close at 2:40. So the company will be making peak power and not being used by the school. And anyway, this could be a really good opportunity for places like schools and other institutions that don't get to have the 30% tax rebate. They could maybe induce Clean Power Alliance to, hey, come to our place, put it up here, and then that's how you increase your whatever. I actually submitted an application to be on their advisory board. I'm sure it'll be rejected. But I did submit that a couple of weeks ago. I haven't heard back. So, as personal, not on the town council.
It's interesting too, because I think there was a lot of confusion too, where people said, well, wait a minute, who's gonna, Edison will still manage all the transmission lines. So it's literally, they're just gonna feed power into the grid. So it's, if you're buying power, you're buying from Clean Power Alliance versus Edison. You know, how they're separating that out is how they're doing that. But, so I think that my understanding too is that at that point you'd be dealing with Edison. So if the line's down in your house or transformer goes out, you're still dealing with Edison. So it doesn't remove you from Edison being involved in your life. It just, you're sending money.
Your bill won't be from Edison,
Correct.
that's my understanding.
Correct.
And the Edison does all the distribution and the transmission,
Yes.
like you said.
So, anyway, it's something interesting that I've seen people surprised about. All right, bylaws.
Yep. Okay. We're gonna have a bylaws review. One of the things we've talked about doing is because our council is supposed to be composed of a maximum of 9 members. We have very rarely had 9 members. I think the whole time I've been here, we've had anywhere from 6 to 7, every couple of times 9 members. So we've talked about possibly bringing that number down to a maximum of 7 elected members and keep a minimum of 3, which is what we've had. So we're going to have a review and form a committee and have a review and discuss that. And that was just our thoughts. So beginning of March, we'll probably put that back on the agenda. So if anybody wants to come and give their comments, please do.
Thank you.
So, we need at least one more person here to be on that committee.
Yeah.
Don't all volunteer.
I want to.
Anybody in the audience that would like to be on that committee?
Committees are supposed to actually be peopled by community members, not town council.
Yeah, not only us, yes. So
Just so you
anybody
know.
can be on that committee. So if anybody's would like to be, you'd like to be? Sure. Okay, good. Thank you.
Does this mean if you do change to 7 or you've got 6 now, do you want to start?
And maybe the Clean Power Alliance will have an update. We'll learn
Yeah,
what we
it's
learned.
interesting. I was not aware of it at all.
Yeah, welcome to my week of frantically trying to research.
To get a new bill? We're going to get a new bill?
Who else was coming?
Power bill?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, you will.